Hey guys, so this is an example video of the chain rule, but like the chain rule with trig functions. I had a request to maybe do a couple just with more trig functions kind of in the example. So I'm going to go through these three examples. I think that these are pretty straightforward examples as far as the chain rule goes. So if you don't understand how to break down the chain rule, I highly recommend that you watch my lesson video on the chain rule. Kind of the thing about the chain rule is that it's all about knowing how many functions you have composed with one another. And in this lesson video, I basically go through like a ton of exercises of how to pick out those functions. To me, that's really the key. So for these three, I'm not going to show you how to break that all out because I've covered that in depth in a lesson video, but I am going to go through just like the steps for these examples. So just kind of a little caveat there. So starting with the first one. So we have here, we have a couple different ways that we can think about this. So you can look at this as sine of 1 over the square root of x plus 7. But maybe what would be better in this case would be to rewrite this as really x plus 7. This would be this to the negative 1/2, right? So occasionally you might want to invoke this. It doesn't always make sense to do this, but in this particular case, I would rather do something with the power rule versus with how this is written, I would have to use the quotient rule, and I just feel like the quotient rule is more work, so I'm just going to rewrite it like this. And so by doing this, now I have this outside function, so sine is the outside function. And now with how I rewrote this, I can actually see that this thing to the negative 1/2, that's like your middle function, and then the innermost function is x plus 7. So if that doesn't make sense to you, again, I have a whole video where I kind of break this down. To me, this is really the key for the chain rules, to take a second to think about this. So I can see kind of how to visualize this problem, so now we can get started. So I'm going to go ahead and first I'll take the derivative of the outermost function. So the derivative of sine is cosine. And the whole thing with the chain rule is then after you take that outermost, you leave the rest of the function alone, like this. Okay, so next I'm going to multiply by the derivative of the next function. So that middle function was this thing to the negative 1/2. So I have to use the power rule with this. So I bring the negative 1/2 down. I leave the inside function intact, and then I subtract 1 from this exponent. So this will become now to the negative 3/2. But wait, there's more. And then I have to finally finish this off by multiplying this by the derivative of the innermost function. So the derivative of x plus 7 is just 1 in this case. So that actually worked out kind of nice. Okay, so now I can see everything that's kind of left with this, and you have some options. Like this can always be the tricky part, is how do you finish simplifying this? And the reality is, like, there's lots of different ways, and I think different books will take different approaches. But in general, a really good rule of thumb is to try to write your expression as kind of a singular fraction, and then also where you see like these negative exponents, to try to rewrite this without negative exponents. And that's also like a cue from this problem, right? This wasn't stated with negative exponents, so I probably just want to get rid of the negative exponents. So to do that, what I'm going to do is, so I've got this cosine of x plus 7 to the negative 1/2. So instead of writing this x plus 7 to the negative 1/2, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to rewrite it back in this form where we actually started. So the top of this will be cosine of 1 over the square root of x plus 7. Okay, now I have to multiply that by this fraction over 2. So this whole thing's going to be over 2. We'll write negative 2, I guess. And then to get rid of this negative exponent here, basically I'm just going to take this x plus 7, but I'm going to send it to the denominator of this because that's what the negative exponent's telling me to do. So this will be x plus 7 to the negative 1/2. So here would be the simplified answer. Okay, so moving on to B, so we're going to do the same exercise here, where really what I want to do is I want to identify like where my where my different functions are. So the thing about this is, I've talked about this in other videos too. So this thing being squared, I think this really throws a lot of people off. So if you fall into that category, probably the first thing that you want to do when you are doing problems like this is rewrite them. So this is going to be So this is going to be sine of 7x plus 2. So what that squared thing means is to square this entire thing. So I like rewriting it like this as I'm picking out my functions, because then I can really clearly see kind of where the order falls in, because if you mess up this order, then you've messed up the whole thing, right? Okay, so let's identify our functions. Here's the outermost, this e. And then moving on in, we've got this thing being squared. And then as we continue to move on in, we've got the sine. And then we have this 7x plus 2. So just to round this out, so this e, and then this whole thing being squared, and then this sine, and then this 7x plus 2. This is really, to me, the key of the chain rule. If you cannot pick this out, then it becomes a lot harder. Okay, so let's go ahead now and take this derivative now that I've figured everything out. So I'm going to start with the outermost function. The derivative of e is just e, right? And then the rest of this stuff, I'm just going to write it in kind of its original form. Nothing changes with the exponent to start. Okay, so now moving in to this whole thing being squared. So now this thing being squared, I have to bring the 2 down. So I'm using the power rule here. So I bring down the 2, and then I've got this sine of 7x plus 2. So notice I just rewrote the inside, and then I can subtract 1 from the exponent. So normally we wouldn't write the exponent, but just to be nice and clear here, I'm just going to put a 1 as a marker there. Okay, so now moving on to the next function. The next function is sine. The derivative of sine is cosine. So I'm going to multiply this by cosine of 7x plus 2. And now moving into the innermost function, the derivative of 7x plus 2 is just 7. So there's everything now. So now I just have to kind of go through the work of cleaning all of this up. Okay, so let me make some space. And so for this particular problem, just kind of note, like there's no fraction here, right? So I don't think that there's like a one best way to write this, because this is just really a bunch of stuff multiplied together. The one thing that I do notice is that, so let's see, I'll highlight this. Let's see, what color should I use? I guess I'll use this yellow color. So I've got this 2 and this 7. Those two things can be multiplied together. But otherwise, like the rest of this, like there's no really meaningful way to write any of this in a particular order. So I'm just going to go ahead then and first write the constant. So 2 times 7 is 14. Then this will be e to the sine squared 7x plus 2. And then sine of 7x plus 2, and then cosine of 7x plus 2. And so in this case, that's really like as good as it gets. You know, just for fun, I looked up what a derivative calculator would do with this problem, and they just switched the order of the cosine and the sine, so it doesn't matter like the order that you have these in. Remember, multiplication is what we call commutative, so you can multiply really things in any order that you want. So probably the standard way to make things look nice would be to put, of course, the constant first, and then probably the thing with the crazy exponent, and then your trig functions next. I don't know that there's like really like an agreed upon way to make this look though. So this is really the equivalent of if you looked at a derivative calculator and they flip these two. I think that's perfectly fine. Okay, so now moving on to this last one. So this one's a little tricky. I think this one really kind of messes with people's heads because they see the chain rule, but then they also see the quotient rule in here. So the thing about this is to recognize like the quotient rule, in my opinion, is kind of dominating like this whole function. So let's think about how to approach this. So to make this not mess with your head, what I would recommend is first, so like I said, we know we have to use the quotient rule to kind of guide all of this. So let's just be super clear. Here's my f of x, here's my g of x. And if I just think about what the structure for this should be f prime of x times g of x minus f of x times g prime of x, all of this over g of x squared. Okay, so this is really what I want to think about. And then as it just so happens, when I take the derivative of the top or the bottom, I'm going to have to use the chain rule. So let this kind of drive everything and then just work with the chain rule as you go along. Okay, so let's do this now. So I'm going to have f prime of x times g of x. Okay, well, let's write the g of x first. So the bottom function. This would be what stands for my g of x. So I just have that. It doesn't matter which order I want to multiply these in, right? So now I have to take the derivative of f prime of x. So looking at this, so if I just kind of blow this out for a second, x plus 3 to the 7th. So the outermost function in this case would be this thing to the 7th, and the innermost function would be this x plus 3. So if I go ahead and I try to take the derivative of this, first I take the derivative of the outermost function, so I use the power rule. So I bring down the 7, and then I leave the inside function intact, and then I subtract 1 from the exponent. And then I multiply that by the derivative of the inside functions. That would be times 1, because the derivative of x plus 3 is just going to be 1. So there's the first part. Okay, so now let's pivot and let's work on the bottom function. So this is going to be, I'm just going to write this down. So x plus 3 to the 7th. So there's this first f of x. So now I have to take the derivative of the bottom. Okay, so once again, just kind of blowing this out for a second. If I've got the natural log of sine of x, so the outermost function in this case would be the natural log, and the innermost function would be sine. So as I'm multiplying this together, what I'm going to have here is, so first I take the derivative of the natural log. That would be 1 over the inside function, which is sine of x. And then I'm going to multiply that by the derivative of the inside function. The derivative of sine is cosine of x. Oops, and let me color code that. And I'm running out of space here, but times cosine x. So hopefully you can see all of that. And then all of that is over the bottom squared. So the natural log of sine of x squared. Okay, so let me make some space. Okay, so now there's lots of different ways, once again, you could probably go about simplifying this, but let's just take this in pieces. So first things first is if I just multiply what I can together here. So there's really no way to make this first part look really beautiful. We'll bring the constant out in front. I'm just going to do x plus 3 to the 6 times the natural log of sine of x. But honestly, if you flip-flop this, where you have the x plus 3 to the 6 and the natural log of sine of x, you flip-flop the order of that, I think that's fine. But just the one thing you'd want to do is put the 7 first, because the constant generally comes first. And then looking at this guy here, so let's see, I'm going to have minus x plus 3 to the 7th. Okay, so cosine over sine is going to be cotangent. So I want to just rewrite all of this right here. So this right here, this is the cotangent of x. So I'm going to rewrite this as the cotangent of x. All of this over the natural log of sine x squared. Okay, so what do you do from here? Like this, I think, is another one of those cases where there's like a lot of different directions you could go. So a big part of this, I think, is kind of having a discussion with your instructor, because I don't see like a super meaningful way to necessarily simplify all of this, if that makes sense. Like we can simplify it a lot of different ways, but I don't know that there's like one, be all end all way that we would typically simplify. So if I really wanted to simplify this as far as possible, I'm going to actually show you a couple different ways that you can approach this. So let me clear some space. And now I'm really just going to focus on this for a second. And I'm just going to show you two different directions that you could go with this, just so you can get a little creative, because I know sometimes you can look in the back of a book and say like, well, did I get the derivative right or not? So this is where I also mentioned like one of the hardest parts of calculus is actually the algebra. So sometimes to get to the answer in the back of the book, you really have to flex your algebra skills. So I would bet that any calc book would probably not have this format of the answer, but instead like one of several different. So I just want to show you like a couple different ways you can play around with this so that you can modify this to your needs, if that makes sense. Okay, so one way that we could play around with this is I could break up this fraction into two pieces. So I could go like this. So I've got this 7 x plus 3 to the 6, and then the natural log of sine of x minus x plus 3 to the 7th, and then cotangent of x. But now I'm going to put each one of these over the denominator, which will allow me to simplify the denominator, at least for part of this. Okay, so I've got this all set up. Okay, so looking at this, one simplification that I could make, I could technically cancel out one of these natural log of sine of x's with this. So what I mean is now in this fraction, I can cancel this out and I can turn this into just the first exponent. So that's one way I could do it. And so I actually looked at a derivative calculator too, just to see how they simplified it. And what they actually did is they did not write this as cotangent of x. They actually kept this as cosine of x over sine of x. And then what they did was they sent the sine to the denominator. So I'll show you one way that I saw how this looks. So this would be 7x plus 3 to the 6 over now the natural log of sine of x. So there's the first fraction. And then the second fraction becomes x plus 3 to the 7th cosine of x over sine x times the natural log of sine x squared. And you can't go any farther with this. So this is like one way that I saw how this was done. Like I said, this technically to me seems like simplified, but this is also simplified. And if I wanted to come up with like another creative way to do this, so you can pause the video if you want to inspect this a little more. I'm going to clear some space. Okay, so one other maybe kind of tricky way you could simplify this would be to notice that, so I've got x plus 3 to the 6th and x plus 3 to the 7th. So technically this x plus 3, this is like a GCF. So I've noticed that a lot of times people really have trouble with this trick, so I want to show you a trick of how to get yourself to see this. So pretend for a second that the top here, pretend for the second that the top is 7a to the 6th b minus a to the 7th c. Okay, so I just rewrote like basically everything that's being multiplied. So I left the 7 alone. I've rewritten this as a thing to the 6, and then this whole thing here, I'm just letting it be a b for a second. And then this, I've got a to the 7th and then just c. So I do this. Why did I do this? I did this to help me figure out how it factors. So if I look at this here, I can see that I can factor out the a to the 6, and I would be left with this. You see that? So the reason that I bring this up is that I could actually factor out x plus 3 to the 6th. I could factor this all the way out and leave kind of all the other stuff that's in here. I could rewrite it. So let me show you how that'll look then. So basically the a is this x plus 3, the b was this natural log of sine x, and the c was the cotangent of x. So if I wanted to utilize this trick, so I'm going to bring the x plus 3 to the 6 out in the front. And then I have 7 natural log of sine x minus x plus 3 cotangent of x, and then all of this over the denominator. And then again, you could break it up once again. Sorry, this is a little extra parenthesis. You could break this up again now into like 2 separate fractions. Like, there's just kind of a lot here that you can do. And it's not necessarily something that's totally agreed upon. So I think often when you have something that's kind of this crazy looking, I think often a lot of teachers will take different simplified forms. Now, there are some forms that, you actually can really whittle them down into something very, very small. And it really relies on you kind of knowing your trig properties. But this particular instance, this is really like, there's a couple different routes we can go. I don't think there's like one be all end all. So part of that is just practice. How do you know which way it's going to go? It's just you practice this so much till the point where you can look at it and say, oh, okay, I can see that I can use a trig property or not. So hopefully that is helpful to you guys. That concludes this video. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you next time.